So today, right, I was out and about and I was just seeing everything at a fast pace. And what came to my mind was we are human beings, not human doings. And you think about animals in a field, the cows, they just sit there, they eat the grass. Squirrels, they dig holes, they find their
Mhm.
nut, they go up a tree, they chase another squirrel, and they go about their day. They're just being, they have nothing to do, nowhere to be. They're
Mhm.
just being there. Humans are always doing something, always doing something, getting out of debt, going this, going that, cooking, got to go to the shop, got to do this, got to call my friend, got to get a present for their birthday. And they're always doing something. And it's like, what is the purpose in all of this? As almost I feel that people are forever doing something to get themselves out of debt. And the reason why they're in debt is because they're trying to pay off this house, which the system bought, because you can never afford a house by yourself. So now your whole life is spent doing something towards a house. And it's like you
Mhm.
could literally buy a 10 grand motorhome and have a great life there. And you wouldn't ever need to work for the rest of your life if you were growing
Mhm.
your own vegetables. So we're
Mhm.
always doing something. And it's like, well, why are we doing this? You're part of a
Mhm.
system. There's no purpose. You're just going with the motion, going out on a Friday night, paying your bills, and at the end of the day, when you die, you literally were living your life for somebody else. You were
Mhm.
doing something for somebody else. You were never being, and you're just on this train that never stops. And that's what came into my head today.
That's a great point. No, it's so true. It's very easy, I think, in our culture to get caught up in that mentality because it's taught to us from so early on. So it's beautiful when you can remember that there's other ways of being and kind of settle into what works for you.
So the you leave school, you go to college, you go to uni, then you get your degree, and then you get a job, and then you find a partner, and then you get a dog, and then you have a kid, and then you get married, and
Mhm.
then you probably will get divorced, and then somebody gets a disease and dies, and then you die, and it's that cycle over and over and over again. Now, I've
Mhm.
realized that if you're part of the system, you're in the system forever. For example, people need to get a credit score in order to get money from the bank. How do you get a
Mhm.
credit score? You borrow. So
Mhm.
instantly, it's like if you want a house, you've got to borrow from us to prove that if you use our money, we're going to get it back. But the minute you can't pay a bill, we're taking your house. And then you think, for example, how the COVID situation happens, and now
Yeah.
people are borrowing more money, loaning more money to keep their business afloat. So they're never going to be able to pay off their loan initially anyway. They'll always be paying their monthly mortgages, whatever, until
Mhm.
they sell the business with the loan, or they just simply have to shut it down, right? But now you're
Right.
borrowing money to keep your business afloat. You're now increasing your loan and your debt by say two, for example. So now you've now increased you're now fixed to the system for another say 40 years.
Mhm.
So the system is trapping you. You
Literally.
need more money, so you go to the system, and then now you're in more of a debt. And it's like the bigger you are, the harder you fall.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Now I see everyone everywhere around me. People have building rent, and now they can't afford their rent, so they go to the bank, they get another loan, and they couldn't afford the bills anyway. It's absolutely crazy. And so everyone's sucked into the system to keep the economy going, to taxpayers pay their tax, and it really
Mhm.
is it's it's scary.
It
It really
is.
is scary.
It's a crazy time to be alive. I will definitely admit that.
What have you been thinking about lately on your mind? What are you
Well,
trying to work out?
yeah, I mean, a lot about similar things, just kind of looking at everything happening in the world and trying to not necessarily make sense of it because I think a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like we said, it's built upon these systems that they don't work for everybody involved, which doesn't make sense in my mind. But just trying to also like find a way to not be on hold during all of these kind of changes that are occurring in our world, trying to kind of maintain the groundedness and kind of just see what you can do each day to really just do your part and align with your path. That's always a big part of, I think, things on my mind.
Yeah, if you're not part of the system where you're always having to do something to basically get out of it, then there
Mhm.
pretty much is nothing to do because you're now left with a meditation mindset of just awareness
Mhm.
of what's around you. And
Mhm.
then there's nothing to do, which is where we've already come from. And a lot of this, stress is good in the animal kingdom because you have to be aware if it's like an animal's going to come and attack you. But
Right.
stress of paying your bills, getting up late and then losing your job, not being able to pay your mortgage, to lose your family home. That's bad stress. That's man-made stress that
Yeah.
doesn't exist. It's not supposed to exist. And that's why so many people are getting disease, because you're putting your body in this disease state, which is just not natural. You know, like say you
Mhm.
at sports day, you get that heart pounding and you run and then you get that heart adrenaline going, the same as
Yeah.
if an animal was about to get you. That's a
Yeah.
different adrenaline stress. But
Yeah.
when you're stressed for like, you know, going to work, that's not adrenaline heart pounding stress. That's
No.
like toxic. I'm just still, I'm depressed, I'm
Yes.
numb. That is not good.
No, it wears on the body because that's, I think, what our society doesn't teach. Thankfully, it's becoming so much more mainstream, but just, mind, body, spirit, the connection between all of it. If you're constantly stressed, it's wearing on your body. It's leading to these inflammatory diseases that so many people have. Of course, with the diet and so many other things that are, lifestyle. Um, yeah, just like a lack of hope and purpose. There's so much I think that's kind of plays into these things, but I agree. It's a big kind of task or thing to look at, but trying to see, I don't know, how you can like do your part each day, like I was saying before, and like where you kind of fit into it, I think is that's where the empowering aspect comes in.
Like obviously you probably know the power of fasting and what it does to your
Mhm.
body when you give it enough time to rest. Like it's always
Mhm.
digesting. It's like an airport suitcase system just on all the time. It's going to break
Yep,
down. But why is our
literally.
body any different? And animals, they walk miles, find food, and then they walk
Mhm.
more miles and they burn off the food that they had to get there. We're just sat in
Exactly.
our house ordering off Just Eat and everything, eating
Yeah.
so much. And it's crazy how quickly you can put on weight if you have an additional piece of food going
Yeah.
into your body that you didn't have before. It's crazy, like how much weight you can put on just by having
Mhm.
an extra whatever. And you
Yeah.
think, wow, people don't just have an extra chip or whatever, they just eat all the time and they're
Mhm.
putting on all this weight. And I actually believe that the reason why we get wrinkly is because we get fat, it stretches the skin. And
Mm.
now when the skin it's like it's lost its elasticity. And
Mhm.
when you, as you get older, you burn the fat, don't eat as much, whatever, and now your skin's left stretched. Like I saw this massively obese person who
Mhm.
was absolutely huge, and he started to lose all this weight, and he got really muscly. No joke. He had pecs. His nipple was hanging down. His nipple
Mhm.
was like it was like stretched. It was hanging off. So we had this
Mhm.
massive pec, but no
Mhm.
nipple. The nipple was hanging down. And you think how
Mhm.
many people are fat in this world? Pretty
Literally.
much at least 75%. And people get wrinkles, and it's like aging. Aging starts from within inside, not the outside. All these creams and shit. It's not gonna do anything.
It's
And you
crazy.
think the power of diet and what it's doing to us. And think about global warming and taking up all the
Mhm.
resources. If people
Mhm.
fasted, that will save global warming. Because think about it, everything's about humans eating and everything. If you fast,
Consumption.
you won't have breakfast. Imagine the whole 8 billion humans didn't have breakfast, right? They'd
Mhm.
save what, a third of the food already, because most people eat a third of their food in the morning anyway. Can you just
Mhm.
imagine? And if they didn't eat till after 8 and they
Literally.
wait, you mean all like toast, that's like grains and farmland and milk and
Mhm.
cereal, that's fucking millions of cows.
Mhm.
Fasting, I mean, I'd say is a secret to fixing global warming if people could.
It really could. No, I agree. It's wild because these things that could really help are not necessarily that difficult, or that out there. Like we said, like I think it's very manageable for most people to do that, but it's also just the information, understanding, kind of the structures that have been set up and that are in place. And because it's never a matter of, judging those who don't understand it or don't want to see it either. It's just bringing awareness and hoping that has, causes people to think and just try to make a little bit more of a mindful decision about their impact on themselves and the world around them and the earth at large.
Talk to me about your sleep routine.
So, I mean, obviously, getting those 8 hours is of utmost importance. I don't know if you've realized this, but over the past few months, I almost need more a lot of the time. I feel like there's just a lot of shifts and changes happening, like collectively in the consciousness. And with all of these things shifting, with all of the things that are kind of like, it just feels like there's like things rising up. And that's why there's so much coming to the surface this year. With that, it's going to impact our physical bodies. So we might need more rest, more detox baths and things like that. I've been doing a lot of. So yeah, maintaining that consistent routine, I think, is so important. And it's something that I'm definitely constantly striving for. But yeah, it's so important. It changes everything.
So I rarely yawn, right? Because I go to
Mhm.
bed at the exact same time every night. As soon as it hits 12 o'clock, I am out, right? Very disciplined. And when I
Mhm.
wake up naturally, it's always around the same time, around
Mhm.
8 o'clock. So
Mhm.
I think that there is an enormous power to your body having energy peaks throughout the day. So it knows to
Mhm.
peak at say 2 because it knows to peak at 2, it knows to shut down at 12, it
Mhm.
knows to, wake up 2 hours before 8 in the morning. And
Mhm.
I, the reason why we yawn isn't necessarily because we're tired. It's just our energies and our brain, it's not in sync with everything. So
Mhm.
we're doing too much at say 1 o'clock rather than 2 o'clock, because if you went to bed an
Right.
hour later watching Netflix, in
Mhm.
your body's mindset, it's basically an hour beforehand, and you're doing all
Mhm.
this physical energy, mental energy at this time, when your
Mhm.
brain's like, hang on a sec, we aren't supposed to do that till later because I've only been awake for say 6 hours and I'm not fully functioning until 7. And the
Mhm.
same as if you don't have the same amount of sleep. And I don't yawn. I rarely ever yawn. I can't remember the last time I yawned, because it's like going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time is so powerful,
Mhm.
so powerful. And like the sleep routine, sleep is more important than water.
Yes, I definitely agree. It's wild to look back over periods of life or just kind of seeing how different people live, and it's how like sleep will be sacrificed, and I think that's very normalized. And it's like I agree. I think it's one of the most important things you can do for yourself is really just allow yourself to rest. 'Cause that's when your body is doing its repairs. It's when our system is cleansing and detoxing. If we're never resting enough to let those things happen, it's not that your body doesn't want to, it's just like it literally can't when we're running around all day. So, yeah, I
It's like
agree.
like a cactus. If it knows it's not going to get rain for a few days, it will hold on to it. If our
Mhm.
bodies know we're not going to get drink, it will just hold on to it. So we're not going to
Mhm.
die
Mhm.
after, they say 3 days if that you can last without water, right? But sleep, if you don't sleep for a whole day, you are fucked,
Mhm.
literally. So sleep
Mhm.
is more important than water. And
Mhm.
everyone's trying to keep up this fast pace motion of getting up for work. It's like they go to work all day. The time they
Mhm.
get back and they've, gone to the gym and they've sat down, it's 9 o'clock. And it's like, do you know
Mhm.
what? I deserve to watch Netflix for 2 hours. I
Mhm.
deserve it. I've had a hard day. And so you now
Mhm.
stay up until 12. You're getting up at 6. That's 6 hours
Mhm.
sleep. And it's that
Mhm.
same cycle of, I'm not going to get time for myself until the weekend. So I'm
Yep.
just going to stay up. And then you get up early. I don't think people should set alarms. I mean, because that's like taking out the dishwasher before the dishwasher's gone off. Like it's still
Mhm.
doing its cycle. That steam at the end is crucial to like warming up the plate so it's not wet. And that's the same as
Totally.
us taking time to wake up. You can't just suddenly wake up and then, get up and go and have a shower. I mean, it's fucked. It's like it's destroying man. The
Mhm.
qualities of man and how we've gotten come this far for our intelligence. We're killing us.
No, I agree.
We're doing the opposite. We're going back.
I agree. And it's being the thing that people strive for. It's just it's so backwards. It's really it's wild. It's wild. I agree.
What is your thoughts on vegan diet?
Ooh, good one. I was slash am very kind of like plant-based. I was like strictly vegan, I would say, for like 2 years, maybe 3 years. But for my own body, I've really gotten more into a place where I eat like intuitively. So there's times where I feel like I need, some eggs. My mom has chickens, so I love getting to use their eggs and things like that. So that's been something I like slowly introduce those back. I do like using raw, like local honey because I think there's so many beautiful health benefits to that, and they like take such good care of their bees, and it's so great. So there's certain things that I do use that people who are strictly vegan would be like, no, you're not vegan. Um, but I do, I don't eat animal. I don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat for probably 5 years now. Um, I don't think it's wrong that people do. I just think if they do that, obviously not choosing conventional farming is the way to go. Grass fed, making sure the animals are well cared for. But I do think that it's beautiful that so many people are waking up and really reducing their intake of these things. I mean, it's so toxic for most people, and especially in the conventional way that it's done. Conventional dairy, conventional meat. I mean, those are things I grew up on, and I definitely had so many health issues growing up, inflammation, skin issues, all different things because of all the toxins in the foods that I was eating. So it's been really empowering to have learned so much about food, and I actually went on to go to IIN health coaching, just to like further my training and really learn more about that as well. And so I've actually helped to, coach clients through, elimination diets, or just being more mindful about the things that they're eating, bringing awareness to even just water quality, simple things that I say simple, I mean, they're so important. But things that people, if you don't know, how could you know? So yeah, I think just the more awareness you can spread around these things and just the benefits of them has only ever benefited me for sure.
So, like, what we think will become a reality, and the more you think it, the more you want it, and the more you're told you
Mhm.
can't have it, the more you want it. So,
Mhm.
people are eating, and they're just making companies richer, and the more money they have, the more they market, the more you buy, and it's that cycle. You're getting fatter and fatter and fatter. A
Yeah.
piece of steak can literally last you a whole day, and yet people are eating equivalent to that amount of meat all day, right?
Mhm.
Every day. So
Yep.
even if people just like reduce their meat intake by half, they'd still be fat because they're still eating too much anyway. But that's
Mhm.
like half the animals on the planet wouldn't need to be here. Like David Attenborough thing on Netflix, his witness statement. Did you see it?
Mhm.
He said like 60% of all the animals are animals that humans create to eat. And
Mm.
there's like only say 8% of other wild animals, and then we make up say a third of animals, whatever. So
Right.
if people just didn't eat so much meat,
We
you'd
wouldn't have
have
to feed.
wouldn't have half the animals, you wouldn't need half the land, wouldn't have the top down half the trees.
Mhm.
Um and it's just making like literally a select few people richer. Like the whole planet
Mhm.
is being taken over by essentially 100 people.
Mhm.
And it is really it's funny. I was gonna say. Yeah, go on. I
Yeah,
forgotten you talk.
that's okay. That's okay. No, I agree, and I think that
Oh
that's
yeah, toxins. I used to
yes.
have massive bad acne growing up, all on
Mhm.
my back, all on my face, and I tried every cream, every fucking thing, right? Nothing
Mhm.
worked. I changed
Mhm.
my diet and I meditated because I used to
Mhm.
be stressed from brain activity, which is just pressure and tension on the face, whatever.
Mhm.
And all my spots disappeared. And
Mhm.
um I realized that I'm allergic to milk,
Me as
which is
well.
like animal protein. And I realized that
Mhm.
the more if people were to fast and cleanse their diet, all the
Mhm.
foods that they've had growing up, grains, milk, whatever, you give your body chance to realize that it's this that's causing me problems. Because you're
Yeah,
just too busy like eating, digesting, that it's just focused
literally.
on getting it out. But now when you fast and you eat clean, your body like doesn't get as much, so it recognizes, okay, milk. And then I get spots when I have milk, no joke.
Me too.
And then and it takes a 3 weeks. It's like a week to come up, a week to stay, and a week to die down, all because I've had milk.
Mhm.
Literally, it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Nope, mine's the same. It's so funny because I think so many people, when you tell them these things, are like, but how could I be allergic? I've eaten it my whole life, or I could never live without it. And it's like, it's so, for me, it was so empowering. And once I could clearly see that this thing that I was putting into my body was creating a reaction, it was such an easy decision to not want to put that into my body anymore. Until you see it for yourself, I think many people, it's just this very vague concept, and they're more willing to want to just have that easy fix and do. And I'm like, it's just wild to see because it's never going to get to the root of the problem, and that's really how you're going to create that change.
And I used to always feel sick all the time growing up. I go to a restaurant, I feel sick. I have dinner, I feel sick. I was always
Yeah.
feeling sick. And I look back to my diet, it was crisps, chocolate, cakes. It was
Hmm.
just everything, like just shit, McDonald's and everything, right? And
Yeah.
now, if I have a whole bag of Pringles, I have to make myself sick because of the acid reflux building up. I feel sick, and I know when I feel sick, I'm gonna feel sick until I puke. So I have to go to the
Mhm.
toilet and puke. And that's a
Mhm.
reinforcement of you cannot eat this shit because this
Literally.
is why you used to feel shit. Not only that, but your diet is so clean nowadays that your body recognizes all this shit coming in quicker. So now I've gone from eating 5 packs of crisps every day, pretty much from the age of 5 years old
Mhm.
until 22, 23, 24. I was
Mhm.
addicted, right? And then
Mhm.
I stopped eating crisps. And then when I treat myself to Pringles or Doritos, I feel sick. And now I don't want to eat them anymore. So now I'm aware of how shit I feel. That's the driving force not to eat these foods as opposed to, oh, McDonald's, KFC, a nice chicken burger they've just released. Now I'm like, no, because you feel like shit. And so
Exactly.
now that's the driving force. And so it's discipline, but it takes a long time to get your brain out of that pattern to
It
not eat
does.
those foods, knowing that you're going to feel shit. So you have to feel shit to tell yourself, you told yourself you're going to feel shit. Why did you
Mhm.
do that? And you're convinced, oh, I'm fine. It won't next time. I'll be fine. And then you feel sick again. And then you start going back to an ex-boyfriend until you realize, like, you keep
Mhm.
fucking punching yourself in the face, mate, until you
Yeah.
realize that you will keep going back. So you have to learn through pain
Mhm.
and diet. Problem for spots, eczema, acne, cirrhosis,
Yeah.
everything, every single
I
thing,
agree.
greasy hair, everything.
I agree. It all comes back to diet because I mean, food is
Literally.
medicine, you know? Like our ancestors, they didn't eat these things. Our bodies don't even know how to process and digest the processed foods that are created nowadays. And they're designed not with our health in mind. You know, it is just the addictive quality. It's just to keep that system that we were talking about going. And so now I look at those things and to me, they're not even food. I'm like, that's a non food. It does nothing for me nutritionally. So how is it a food? It's not. And that really helps too, because it's not even something that's on the table for me to want to eat. Yeah.
So, for example, you've got vegan chicken. So let's just say it's mushroom and
Mhm.
chicken flavors and preservatives. I'm
Mhm.
okay with the fact that it's replaced with mushroom as opposed
Mhm.
to made up man-made nonsense. But in
Yeah.
terms of like the chicken flavors, obviously it's not grounded chicken and flavored chicken like
Right.
garlic powder. It is a man-made thing to taste like chicken. So therefore
Mhm.
it's completely man-made in a lab.
Mhm.
Obviously it's not actual meat, so it's not really doing anything nutritional. The mushroom is, but the chicken isn't. But the
Mhm.
chicken flavor isn't. But is the chicken flavor doing more harm than good because it is man-made?
That's actually been something I've been kind of looking into a lot more recently with all the new like Beyond Meat. I don't know if you guys had that there. They're like the burger patty, you know, all the different stuff. And it's just crap. Like, I mean, yeah, it tastes good. It tastes very similar to meat. But when you look into how they create these things, it's more processed than the bags of chips and the Doritos and the different things that we're
Yes.
talking about. And so while I think it's beautiful in a way to have some kind of transition for people who are trying to get off of meat, you know, if the intention is to substitute less and to maybe then eventually not have to eat these things at all, then maybe I could see that. But it's still doing harm, I think, in that process. I've tried a few of them and just felt sick afterwards. I was like, what is like, and I don't even personally like how real it feels and tastes. Like, it's just the whole experience is kind of weird to me. Um, I don't know. It's like, there's a reason I gave up those things. So I don't really need to imitate it. Yeah.
It's like having a blow up doll as your sex partner. It's talking to you, it looks real, whatever, but deep down you're like, this is a fucking robot. So you're
Yeah. I'm like,
tricking yourself into believing that this meat free is chicken, but
it's
you're like,
so
it's not. This blow up doll is sitting there, and it's like, this is weird. This isn't actually a person. And like
exhausting.
e-cigarettes, for example, I do agree. Get yourself off them.
Mhm.
Use e-cigarettes to get off cigarettes, but these days people are just fucking going from one to the other. It's like,
They
what
just
was the whole
use it.
point in any of this? Now people are e-cigaretting just for the sake of e-cigaretting. It's like
Yes.
Pokemon cards. Everyone's got Pokemon cards. I'll get Pokemon cards. E-cigarette,
Literally.
I'll e-cigarette. And
It's
again,
disgusting.
more
I know.
harmful than cigarettes. Cigarettes have, ant killer and fucking petrol and all that shit.
But at least
But
it's tobacco. Like it's a plant. These things are crap. I agree. I
exactly.
agree. I
It's like
agree.
at least it's got some form of nature in it, like a tree, a
Yeah,
leaf, yeah. Even if
yeah,
it's the only thing in it. But this
yes.
oil, I don't even want to think what is in
Oh
it,
my
like
gosh.
chemicals. I mean,
All chemicals. So many people have been injured, and of course, they don't really report on these things because it keeps their industry going. And it's crazy. And I feel like it's sad how young the target really was. I feel like with these things because of the flavors and all the colors. Like they're targeting kids, they're
popcorn and
targeting teenagers.
berry and Coke and McDonald's flavor.
Like that's for teenagers, that's for kids. And it's like, how could you, well, how find, money is their motive, I guess, but it doesn't make sense in my mind how you'd want to target people so young and get them hooked on these things that are not good for them. But that's why we just have to, do our research, learn to be mindful, and spread awareness where we can. I love getting to talk to other people about these things because it can change so much just through a simple conversation.
Like when you think about how say in the 40s, cigarettes, it was just the trend. Everyone in the war was smoking, no one had a clue. And then
Yeah.
20 years later, because these people have done it for say 40 years, that they're getting lung cancer and dying. It's the same for e-cigarettes. If you're gonna get ill, it won't be now, it'll be in say 40 years. So essentially everyone's got to do e-cigarettes for 20, 30, 40 years, maybe if you're lucky, to then realize shit, all these fucking problems because of putting liquid in your body, right? So no one's
Mhm.
gonna have any clue until it's too late. But you could say that is just part of life, and that's just how life is. That's how it will ever always be. And that well, just because we're wise, we want to help everyone, but
Mhm.
we are not part of. We are the heads of the tribes as opposed to the followers. So even though we see it and we're amongst the tribe, we're not part of the tribe. Our mindsets were the leaders of the Jesuses, the Buddhas, and the wherever the people years ago, and they would teach this wisdom. But we're
Mhm.
in the tribe because we can't afford a house. We've got to live in the same city as these people. We want to
Mhm.
help, but we can't help. So maybe all we can really do is teach our own leaders to then teach the most other
Mhm.
people
Right. Kind of like trickle
generation
down.
rather than trying to
Mhm.
change people now. You teach other leaders for the next generation. So does that
Mhm.
make sense? We're skipping a generation. We can't teach all this stuff to our generation because they're too sucked in a system. Years and years ago the system wasn't that big, but I believe it is crumbling and it's going to get smaller,
Mhm.
right? And therefore when people are awake, our generation of kids, there'll be less influence, so therefore this knowledge will come down, and then it will go into, and it will start again, almost like Jesus talking the Bible, and 2000 years later we're repeating it, whatever.
Yep.
'Cause there's no
It's
point trying to
essential.
put all this shit on social media because they have no clue. Whereas if there was less humans, for example, coronavirus wiped out a few, then there's less people to be influenced, and therefore people can actually say, "Do you know what, this actually makes sense, fasting and eating less meat."
Mhm.
So I do
I think
believe that people can't be changed, and our wisdom can only be taught to people who want to learn, and it is a very select few. And trying to teach and empower people in this generation, I don't think it is worth it or possible because it's going to get lost. It's only in time when you look back do you value information. Like Michael Jackson, now he's dead, you really value his music. And
right.
like example, you can say anybody, like any great leaders, when they die, you look back and realize, wow, this is what he was saying. David Attenborough, when he dies, you'll suddenly start taking it seriously, and you know,
Mhm.
you
There
know,
is, yeah, absolutely. I think people, it might take something kind of big, for people to be like, oh, wow, there's some truth to these things. I do feel like people are capable of changing, but I think because of like how deeply integrated like each of these dysfunctional systems are, like at least here, like I feel like obviously they're promoting a diet that's not serving people, and then they're teaching people things that are not serving them. So it's like the educational, it's the agriculture, it's the medical, or just throwing pills at people. Like it's every single system in our country that are all woven together and saying the same thing, but all of those things are not serving people. So if people are not open-minded and willing to be able to say, even though these very large structures that we are supposedly supposed to listen to are saying this one thing, it's like that inner empowerment, like that doesn't resonate with me. And if it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't matter who's saying it, like that's not truth. So I think the more that people are like I feel like a huge part of my mission here is just to really teach people about that personal empowerment, the fact that we each have that intuition, we each have that ability to make these changes, but unless you're tapping into that aspect, you're going to be bombarded by what the world wants you to think the second you step out your door. So for me, at least on my journey, it takes like just settling into what I know to be true, connecting with my tribe of people who can support me in feeling these different ways, and moving forward in whatever capacity. Like we said, just, spreading awareness where we can, even if it's just through these, conversations or putting information out there in whatever capacity. People will do what they want with it. But it's also been empowering to have those moments where I've been able to connect with people and they're like, wow, like I've never thought about these things. I didn't know about these things, and how can they know if they're not introduced the information in some capacity? So I don't know. I think just being open-minded about it has been helpful. Not expecting much, like we said, not everybody is going to take the information and run with it by any means, but it can't hurt to, if you feel called, do your part in spreading some kind of awareness about these topics.
Just imagine, right? You had right now alive, you had Jesus, you had Buddha, you had Monk, you had all these top people of, whatever, Gandhi, whatever, right? They're equivalent to basically everyone I have on my podcast, right? But the reason why there was less people back then is because there was no airplanes and cars and phones. So Chinese monk and Indian Buddha and all these people, they didn't know these people existed, right? So nowadays, all these people across the world, I'm bringing them all together. And I just had a realization. It's just imagine 40 years time, right? And I've done a podcast with, say, every woke person on the planet. And then when the rest catches up, they've got a catalogue of essentially every wise person on the planet. Now, essentially, it's like 50 monks, or by then, I've got 2,000 episodes, right? 50 Buddhas, 50 Jesus, 50 monks. And they're like, holy shit, these thousands of people know all this shit 40 years ago. Like, this is crazy. And they can go through all these episodes and our episode, and they'd be like, wow, what they were saying was 40 years ago. It's happening now, like the climate change, the vegan, the system, the collapse of the system, awareness, fasting, diet. They're like, holy shit, who are these, say, 3,000 people in Canada and America? And I just had a realization of that, because it's too easy to be like present and not get any money from it, give it up. But when you look back, then, and it's like cigarettes thing, it's not now, it's a future when you look back. And so even though people listening right now might not be able to take our knowledge and do something with it, in 40 years' time, when there's enough of it out there, they can listen to this again and get enormous results, because they will already be searching, whereas now they might just stumble across it and they're not really searching. So
exactly.
Yeah, when you plot, yeah,
I think you're right. I think just like having that mindset of not doing something always, like we said, like our society is very, you do something because you're trying to get some kind of result out of it, and you probably have some kind of objective with it and whatever it is. And I feel like a lot of this is following our intuition, like you said, like speaking about the topics, putting out these things and trusting that it will lead you where it's meant to go. It will reach the people it's meant to reach. And sometimes you don't see the full scope of it when it's coming from more of this kind of open and mindful place, which is fun. It's kind of fun sometimes to see where things lead when you're involved.
So I've realized, people say when you fast you become more in tune, so you pick up each other's thoughts. There's a guy on YouTube called You Are Creators, and he's got a wife, and he said he fasted for 3 days, and he was thinking in his head, get me a glass of water, and then his wife next to him went to the kitchen and got some water, so they didn't even speak. I've always had that ability before fasting, and for some reason, I don't know why, my energy is rising and I'm becoming very, when I think, things manifest quicker than they used to. So it was 3 weeks, and it was 2 weeks, and it was 1 week, then it was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 days. Now it's literally in 5 hours. And I find that as I am evolving at this very moment in my life, because the last time this happened was when I was 21. I'm now almost 28, and it's all to do with this pattern of 7 thing, where every 7 years some universal shit happens, right? I always knew at some point I'd get back to that level of awareness where I could think about anyone and I'd see them. I could think and they'd call me. I could think about finding a £10 note and I'd find a £10 note. And I used to go clubbing, and I used to say, find me money. And I'd be guided around the dance floor, and I'd find money. I'd look down a pound, go to the bar. There's a fiver. Someone's dropped their fiver. Somebody's acknowledged somehow in the club that he's dropped money. And I picked up on that thought, and I've gone to the bar, and I found the money. And I'm thinking about people, and then I look at their name badge, and it's their person. This
Yeah.
stuff I lost because I lost it, right? And now I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting it back. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
realizing that the fasting part allows your body like an electrical current to flow through you easier. Like water is number one conductor of electricity. We're
Yeah.
80% water. So if we don't eat so much and just drink water, then your body's made up of more water than it is food, which means you are now a conductor of thoughts, which means you
Mm-hmm.
can think and admit more because you've got more power to admit it. And you can also receive it better. Again, another reason why fasting is absolutely phenomenal. But what I'm really saying is that I'm thinking and manifesting it so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you become aware of this, the more quickly you think and it comes into your life. And it's so, you feel like God. I don't know
Yeah.
how you've had this experience. When you think and it happens, you feel like God.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around and they're like, no one has any idea what I'm just doing. And it's like overwhelming that you have a superpower.
I definitely understand. Yes, I've had some of those experiences as well, where it's just, for me, and this is just my experience, of course, like I don't feel, I guess, like, of course, like we are like God, of course, but for me, it just like, it almost is just like this design, this just interconnectedness. Like I just feel, which I guess that would be God as well, just like that pure divine connection of just like, we are so supported. um Spiritually, I think just like I always envision just like guides and like angels around me and different things. So in those moments, it's just like, wow, like the presence is so known and so felt, and you can almost like release fear in that moment. I don't know, for me that's always like a big thing, is just like it just grounds me into like everything is okay. It always is, but like it truly is in those like realization moments.
It's like in the energy world of, say, two different options. This can
Mm-hmm.
happen or it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Both paths are already there. If you
Mm-hmm.
focus on either one, that's the path that happens. For example, I was supposed to get my bikes serviced and I didn't get it serviced at the correct mileage. So the
Mm-hmm.
quicker they could do was Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I just, it was too long. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
it done now. And I
Right.
called up to ask a question about something. And then they said, you can come in today if you want. And so I was already up and then I came in today.
That's
So just
perfect.
knowing what you deep down really want as opposed to what you are putting up with, it
Mhm.
always happens. Like it just does. And when you like, when I want something on the shopping list, I don't tell my mum anymore. I just have that thought
Mhm.
of get this, get that, get some frankfurters, get this, make Thai curry, and then I
Mhm.
sit down and it's Thai curry on a Tuesday, or I look in the fridge as frankfurters. Like I don't even need to communicate anymore because I just know that it
Mhm.
will appear in the fridge. Or were we going on a walk? There's like many options we can go, and it's the one that I wanted to go on. Or let's go
Mhm.
out for dinner. Where are we going? The pizza shop, which is so I don't need to communicate anymore. Like that guy on YouTube, he didn't need
Mhm.
to tell his wife to get a drink because he's communicating via thought frequencies, so he doesn't have to open his mouth using sound frequencies. And
Mhm.
that is crazy how I don't need to speak because I just have to pick up that thought, it goes out, and it comes back. And it's like we are the president, we're in charge, we're in command. The chief of staff is God. God's our you know, God, can you do this for me? No problem. The president tells his chief of staff, can you call up this governor for me and get this done?
Mhm.
And then Trump will say, president already knows it's already done. He
Mhm.
doesn't question it and say, have you done it? Because it's his job to do it. So when you
Right.
say, angels, get me this, or you want your friend to come out on a Tuesday with you, that's like you as a president telling your chief of staff to call your friend to say, we're going out. And then she says, we're going out.
Mhm.
That is it.
I agree. I love to do it with like parking things too. Like
Oh,
I live
all
in
the
a
time.
pretty crowded area, and so I'll always be,
All the time.
out there, and I'm like, and without a doubt, every time, it's just it is a magical feeling when you're like really in control of your thoughts and just so much more mindful of where your attention's going with everything.
And I've got a tip for you and for people to do. If
Absolutely.
you pull up on any car parking area, indicate left or right, wait there. The law of average, if you were monitoring a car park, okay, is
Mhm.
that every 3 minutes, at least one person or more leaves. What
Mhm.
happens is that you're driving around looking for a space, and if there's no space, you keep driving and you keep driving and keep driving. If you sat there for 2 minutes, people behind you, which you can't see because you're moving forward, have just left. So if you
Mhm.
park up, indicate left or right, cars will go around you. Somewhere in front of you, a car will leave,
Mhm.
but you don't know. You just have to know that
That it will.
statistically, in
Mhm.
a 3 minute period, somebody will leave. Now, this is nothing to do with parking angels because that's about telling the universe you're coming and it aligns up, whatever. This is different. This is like the physical side. Pull
Yeah.
over, indicate somebody will pull out. If you
Mhm.
don't believe in angels, do that. That is a system, and all these cars will overtake, and they'll go up the top floor, and they'll come back down, and all they have to do is wait.
Wait.
It's
Mhm.
almost like, yeah, that's all I have to say on that thing.
No, that's patience. I mean, I feel like that's such a big thing. Patience and trust. Even like you said, even though it's like there's statistically, proof that that will happen, it's also trusting in that, which I think is a huge thing. And it's hard for most people to do. It's like very just, I'm going to do it myself. I'm just going to keep moving forward. And that resting, that like settling back and just like allowing has been such a big thing. I feel like coming back around for a lot of people, which is good. I think it's always a good thing to kind of reflect back on.
But yeah, this parking angel thing, I've been doing it for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I realize the secret is the more you think about it, the more it isn't likely to happen. As soon as you become aware of as soon as you like become aware of whatever it is, you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to put any energy or any thought into that thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I look at it in my mind like this: you get two north magnets, you put it on a table. As you go closer, it pushes the other one away. If you go
Mm-hmm.
really quick, it pushes it even quicker. If you go
Mm-hmm.
slower and you creep up, it pushes it slowly. And you can
Mm-hmm.
never push it together, right? If you turn it round south, it connects,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you think of something, as soon as you let it go, what you want, it flips. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you're focusing on it, you are a north magnet. If you're
Mm-hmm.
focusing on it, you're those two north magnets. It's pushing it away. So when you
Right.
don't focus on it and you look left and it goes right, it's the two norths flipping. So
Mm-hmm.
lefts and right. Now it's north and south, and now it's attracting. And
Mm-hmm.
that is how I visualize it in my mindset. The more you focus on something, it's like two magnets trying to be connected, but they will not connect. And then I had to realize, but it's all one energy anyway. North and north is the same energy, so it should already be one. And south and north is two different things. It's S and N, so
Mm-hmm.
it's two different things. And then I realized it's man-made again. These magnets are man-made, right?
Mm-hmm.
The north and the south, that's what man has put on it. So take away the N and the S,
Mm-hmm.
it's already one anyway. And then
Mm-hmm.
you really have to understand, like, really have to grasp that, like, why is north and north repelling if it's the same thing and south and north doesn't if it's not? And then you realize if you flip it round,
Mm-hmm.
it's already one. It's very complicated, but when you master it, it does make sense. When you focus on a job or lover, they fuck off, and then when you stop messaging them, they come. It's
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yep. It's so true. No, it's so true. I think there's so much truth to that. I like that analogy of like kind of just taking the names off of it and just like energetically even just looking at it in that way. I agree.
Yeah, and people, I think when they can see it, they understand it more. You can try and teach them the same thing, like Jesus can teach forgiveness and Buddha can teach it in Chinese and Israel, whatever. They're just
Mhm.
different sounds, like Israeli language, Chinese language, it's just different sounds, but the
Mhm.
action's the same. So
Yeah.
you trying to explain to somebody the action of the energy, it's hard because there's so many things, there's so much language, and you just like talking Chinese to somebody who doesn't understand Chinese. That's what it's like teaching something. But if you say the magnet situation, they can
Mhm.
understand that. They already understand it in their own way, where they
Yeah.
focus on something so much and they can't get it. So you're
Mhm.
basically giving them the tools to work out their own thing. Hence why I do believe that you can't teach people things. They have to learn through their own experience, and they've got to want to learn. They've got to come to you and ask for advice. You
Yeah.
could spend years teaching them, and if they're not focusing on what they want, it's just
Mhm.
a waste of time, sadly. And then you think, well, if half the world don't want to learn this, as I said, I believe it is a waste of time trying to teach. So you're teaching for the one person out the 99. We're not
Mhm.
teaching for the 99. We're teaching for the one person who's like us, who's going through the awakening.
Yep.
That's why we're doing it. Even though it's one person, it's like, well, it's one
Mhm.
person. Like, it's
Yep.
better than nothing.
It is, and it really is. And I don't know if you've had that experience, because of course there'll be times where like you'll feel that kind of the analogy of where you're like, is anybody hearing what I'm saying? Like, and like, even though you'll get the feedback, but it's also because of like that ratio, I think it can feel confusing. But without a doubt, like we said, just like with the parking spot, without a doubt, there's always that encouragement. There's always those people who are grateful and are hearing the messages that you put out there, which is why I do believe that, at least on my path and at this point, it's, I still get great joy out of, you know, getting to talk about these things in whatever capacity.
And it's like, for example, people would want, say, thousands and millions of Instagram followers so they can reach more people. But yet
Mhm.
you can't see these people, so you don't have that feeling. Whereas if one person sends you a message and says, thank you, that made my day, like that meme, that post you did was really
Right.
amazing. That is a reality feeling. That's like seeing your neighbor and
Mhm.
them saying, thank you for making me this pie. That's a
Exactly.
real feeling as
It's very
opposed to
personal.
putting it
Mhm.
out on a video to millions of people. You never get that physical feeling. So that one person
Mhm.
overrides millions of people. Even though you can help millions of people, in
Mhm.
terms of feeling, one person does it. It's
Mhm.
like you don't need sex, you just need a finger. It does the same thing, you know?
Oh my God. Yeah, well, it's true. It's just like it really does make a big difference. It kind of grounds me into the reality of it all. Mhm.
Mm. Anything else you want to particularly talk about? I don't
Um,
want to ramble for the sake of it. So
yeah.
if you want to speak about anything,
I mean, we talked about diet and everything, which I think is amazing. I mean, I guess I could share a little bit about like what it is that I kind of do or
yeah,
how
do
I
it.
do what I do. So I'm a Reiki master and an Oracle card reader, health coach, herbalist. So all things like natural and holistic healing are really what just drew me onto this path. Truly, it was just what the more I started to awaken to, like we were talking about, just the impact that we can have on our day-to-day lives, whether it be through just the foods that we're eating, you know, the things that we're spending our times doing, the thoughts that we're having, the focus that we really have for our day, or even just the awareness that we have so much more, you know, I think we're co-creators in our lives. Like we have so much more control over really anything that we desire. So I love, you know, helping others on this journey, whether it be through energy healing sessions, through helping clarity, you know, through card readings and different things, gaining access to both really their own intuitive insight, as well as higher guidance. Because I think that a lot of it is about people, like we said, trusting their own intuition and really getting them in alignment and in tune with their own truth, which it's like, you know, teaching someone to fish instead of just getting them the fish. Like that's really how I view all of the work that I do. And so, yeah, it's such a beautiful journey to be on. I'm grateful to have found this path because it does help to make sense of why the world is where it is. That's why we're here. You know, I believe that I definitely came here during this time for a specific reason, and it's to help with this kind of transition in whatever capacity. So I'm grateful to be a part of it and to connect with like-minded souls always.
Mention your website and Instagram or whatever.
Sure. So my website is MarikiMoonWellness.com. And Mariki Moon Wellness is also my Instagram handle, which I can send you if you want to like put in the description or something. But yeah, so I do a lot of sessions distantly with everything going on in the world right now. But I'm located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. So I also do take some clients who are comfortable with that here in Philly.
One sec. You know your plant behind you.
Yes.
What plant is that called?
Oh, it's a Monstera.
One sec.
Mm-hmm.
Mon St era plant.
Mm-hmm. I love these plants.
Because I had a plant growing up, and it's like an amazing plant. Don't know
Oh
what
my
it's called.
gosh.
But it looked like the plant that I had, and I was going to be like, that's crazy. I'm looking for that plant and it's right behind you. It
That
sadly isn't that
oh,
plant. However, it's probably part of the same family. It does look very similar.
oh, that's
I mean, it could
beautiful.
be the plant, but it's very similar. Anyway, that's what I
That's,
wanted to know
that's
because of like,
awesome. Yeah, oh my gosh. Plants are such a, nature in general. That's really where I most easily can kind of sink into the now moment, into my awareness of my higher self, all of it. So having, plants, and I work with the elements of, essential oils and plants through the different things that I make and with my clients and things too. So just the more connected to nature, like we said, to real, just the things that nourish us, I think are so supportive on our journeys. Even just, for the functional sake of having, fresh air in your home is so beautiful, and just to have life around you. So, but yeah, I love my plants.
like everything in life moves and grows, adapts. Nothing stays the same. But in a household, everything stays the same unless you buy something new. So you're
Mhm.
tricking yourself into believing that things stay the same when they do not. You go outside, the trees got bigger, the leaves
Yeah,
have fallen on the floor.
yeah,
Having a plant in your room is like having an animal or a child knowing if you don't feed it, it's going to die. You
yeah,
can see the leaves growing,
yeah,
flowers budding, the old leaf dying, so you pull it
yeah.
off. Like there's something moving, like
It is.
unconsciously, you're looking at that plant to see if that leaf has got bigger or the
Mhm.
flower has opened up and then it
Literally.
becomes a flower and then it dies and you're like, oh, it's died. And then you see there's no more buds and you're like, well, eventually there will be buds. So you look at the flower and then there's another bud and then there's another one and it's like, wow, three new flowers, and the
Literally.
leaf gets bigger. So it's like having an animal. It like gives you something to do, like having a dog. You've got to walk it, so it gets you out the house.
Literally.
Having a plant, you've got to water it. You've got to
Yeah.
make sure it's got air, sunlight. I have
Mhm.
to shut my blinds because it's cold, but when I shut the blinds, I've got to move the plant because it can't fit the
Mhm.
window ledge. But every
Mhm.
morning I put them back on the window ledge, like taking the kids to school when you go to
Exactly.
work.
It's like, "Oh,
It's
here you
like,
go." Yep.
and literally I'm seeing them grow. It's
Mhm.
absolutely incredible. I feel like I'm the dad to three guinea pigs or whatever, three
Yes,
gerbils,
they
because I
are.
have to look after these plants, and if I
Yes.
don't look after them, they're gonna die. Like it's
Literally.
just the reality.
Literally. It's so grounding, I think, in that sense where it's that interconnectedness, it's like they're supporting you through the oxygen they're giving off, and just like the happiness that it gives you through having these like fresh things around you, and
Crazy
you're
plant.
supporting
It's
them through, watering them and nourishing them, or however you're caring for them. So I agree. I think it's just so beautiful to have those things to look forward to, have those things that excite you. Like I love plants. Like I am totally that person who like hugs trees, and I love all of it. So I genuinely get so excited, like you said, when like a new leaf is, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're doing so good. And I don't know, who doesn't, like, life is meant to be enjoyable. Like we talked about so many things that can be kind of heavy, but I think it's important to keep in mind too that I don't think we're here to suffer by any means. I think we're here to come to these things and to, I don't know, just really sink into those moments of joy whenever we can. So if plants make you happy, like go for it. I think it's great.
this could continue, so I'm gonna save it for the next podcast that we do. Um,
Absolutely.
so yeah, well I'll stop it there. Wait there, and I'll just say goodbye. One
Perfect.
sec. Hang, wait
Perfect.
there.